Van Pelt, and welcome to this very special edition of Exceptional Economists. This evening, we would like to welcome the father of modern-day economics, Adam Smith, as well as the inventor of Keynesian economics and the very influential man, Mr. John Maynard Keynes. Wonderful to have you here, gentlemen.
Good evening. Yes, it's wonderful to be here.
Mr. Smith, we'll start with you. Give us some of your background on yourself and your economic theories.
Yes, Megan, thank you for having me here. It is wonderful to see the improvement of our technology in this modern world. You see, I was born in Scotland in 1723, and needless to say, our technology was a little more primitive.
As were your economic beliefs.
How dare you! I see in future centuries, English etiquette sees no improvement.
Gentlemen, let's stay on topic here. Mr. Smith.
Yes, well, where was I? Well, I went to Oxford University, and after that, found my way to France, where my economic philosophizing began, and my theory of laissez-faire developed.
What a pity.
Mr. Keynes, you will get a turn in a moment. Mr. Smith, enlighten us as to your theory of laissez-faire and why it was so influential.
Well, the phrase literally means leave to do. You see, while tutoring in Paris, I came across a school of thought called physiocracy, which states that natural laws govern not only human behavior, but also economic interactions. If we simply leave the economy to take its natural course, our personal desire to acquire wealth will ultimately work to the population's favor. Government interference can only harm the system.
If I'm not mistaken, you then developed your invisible hand theory. Tell us about that.
I believe that the supply and demand theory keeps the economy in check, though not through visible ways. The desire for products, or demand, and the desire to make money, or supply, will regulate one another in an uninterrupted economy.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And in a moment, we'll be back with Mr. Keynes' economics philosophies back. Mr. Keynes, let's get your story. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born in Cambridge, England, on June the 5th, 1893. I started in mathematics, but I decided to go into economics instead. It was my book, The Economic Consequences of Peace, published in 1919, that gave me recognition as a world-class economist. My influential work, though, was The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, which I wrote during the Great Depression. Its effect can still be seen today, though, so, right. In 1942, though, I was knighted, but I don't believe you were knighted, Mr. Smith.
Well,
Mr. Keynes, why don't you unpack some of your main ideas for us?
All right. I believe that economic activity is determined by the spending of businesses, consumers, and the government. If there's little investment in business, then overall spending will decrease, which will lead us to a depression. In such a situation, government should increase consumer spending to prevent such a depression. Government could also lower unemployment by sponsoring public work projects and by increasing public spending and by controlling interest rates. This then could raise the demand for consumer goods. With more people in the workforce and more demand for consumer goods, the market would build on itself, and with a growing economy, more jobs will be available.
So basically you're saying that the government should spend, not save in a recession.
That's about right.
Well, Mr. Smith, in your opinion, what are some of the flaws of Mr. Keynes' economic philosophy?
oh, there are so many, but we'll start simple. Firstly, too much government spending can lead to unnecessary inflation. Then that wouldn't help anyone. Second, what about freedom? Government should only do what business cannot do, and business can get themselves out of debt just fine. Lastly, massive government spending will lead to a huge national debt, which citizens will end up paying through their taxes, resulting in less disposable income, thus limiting consumer spending.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Now, Mr. Keynes, what are your thoughts on Mr. Smith's
Does
economics?
Mr. Smith have no heart?
Does Mr. Keynes have no brain?
Gentlemen, Gentlemen. Mr. Keynes?
It would leave people stuck in a recession for years. The market will not fix itself right away. It takes time. And while he's sitting there doing nothing, people are poor and starving. Mr. Smith has no care for the individual person. He only wants to make money.
That was enlightening. We are running low on time, so one last question. We are experiencing a recession. What do you think our government should do? Why don't you start, Mr. Smith?
Just let things take their course. Supply and demand will even out eventually.
Mr. Keynes?
No. Government should increase the spending and create more favorable investment costs. That way, jobs will be created and demand for consumer goods will increase.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your joining us here on Exceptional Economists. Next week on Exceptional Economists, Milton Friedman will be joining us, and coming up next, your local weather.